Hello, Fatima. Shall we start or would you like us to wait a little bit?
Yes, please, we can start.
All right. Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. I am personally very excited about this medical education grand round with Dr. Jeffrey Stetson. He's going to tell us about many things, but one of them about the MedEdMentor application that he has developed with his colleague. Well, I don't know about you, but I personally struggle when I write medical education articles. We are trained as physicians and we're used to writing scientific articles. And every time we write medical education article, we get asked about the theoretical framework. And I honestly have no idea what that is, and I struggle with that. So I'm hoping tonight we are going to have some guidance. So let me introduce the speaker. Dr. Jeff Stetson. He's an associate professor of medicine and medical education and the director of clinical faculty development at the University of Illinois Chicago College of Medicine. He completed his undergraduate studies at Brown University, earned his MD from the University of Chicago, and pursued internal medicine training at UCSF with a focus on primary care for systematically marginalized populations. With over a decade of experience in training clinical educators, Dr. Stetson has developed expertise in both in-person instruction and innovative social media-based teaching methods. As the Director of Clinical Faculty Development, Dr. Stetson works to enhance learning in clinical environments. In addition to his academic leadership, he is the CEO and co-founder of MedEdMentor that I just mentioned, an innovative AI-supported platform that guides health professions educators through the fundamental steps of scholarship and research. Before Dr. Stetson starts, he has kindly accepted that we can actually put questions in the chat while he is talking. So please feel free to do that. We'll try to keep an eye on the chat. Currently, you cannot unmute and speak, but we'll probably allow that at the end. We will see how it goes. So please feel free to write questions in the chat and we will try to address them. Dr. Stetson, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much for having me. Really excited to be here and to speak with all of you. And yes, please, I want this to be as useful as possible for all of you. I know it's your evening time, so I appreciate you taking time away from your families for this hour, and would like this to be as useful as possible to all of you. So please if anything doesn't make sense or you want clarification or additional information, please just put it in the chat and we'll try to address it in a moment. And we're going to get started with kind of an introduction, and then we'll look at the website itself. And I want to leave some room for questions at the end so you all can ask whatever comes to mind. So here. Does that look good, Natalie? All right, perfect.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you. So I am Jeff, and my partner is Greg. I am the education side of this, and Greg is the technical expert. So with our powers combined, we bring you MedEdMentor. I do need to mention that MedEdMentor is technically a company. Greg and I formed MedEdMentor as a company in order to put all of our intellectual property under one roof. We work at different institutions. Our goal is to make a difference and not necessarily to make money. In fact, we've generated a grand total of $0 from this endeavor. So we are being very, very successful at not making any money. But I do receive some grant funding from the Josiah Macy Jr. Foundation to study the efficacy of this website. So as Natalie mentioned, this is I built MedEdMentor to help myself, essentially, or the past version of me. A lot of people struggle when it comes to using theory in medical education. So this quote really encapsulated my experience. Early career researchers and those new to theory express challenges employing theory, as well as difficulties with theory-related terminology. So I don't know where all of you are on your journeys in health professions education or medical education, but there were so many words that came up that my mentors and teachers were using, and I really had no idea what they were saying. And I was too embarrassed to say that I didn't know what they were saying. So I kind of taught myself. I spent a lot of time, years actually, diving into this and trying to understand it for myself. And I knew that I was not the only one out there. So um, this is another quote regarding the teaching that we do. Many academic faculty members are educators, and few are familiar with the key theories that inform their practice. I think a lot of us are teaching just based on the teaching we received and we liked, but we don't know why we're doing the things we're doing. When it comes to studying the teaching that we're doing, we're making changes in our field in the absence of supportive theory, or at least by a poor understanding of theory. And when it comes to the kind of highest order of scholarship, researchers, particularly those that do not have a background in education or social sciences, may lack a strong grasp of theory. And this was certainly so. I was heartened to know that I was not alone, but it shows me that this is a pervasive problem that we're not doing a great job of addressing. And when you extrapolate that problem from us as individuals to the field, you end up with this problem. So this is a graph that I made based on data that I pulled from this paper you can see in the bottom left. And what we're looking at is the manuscript acceptance rate for one journal, the journal Medical Education, which is an international journal. And on the left, you can see a list of countries and regions in order of how much they publish in this journal. So the United States publishes the most, followed by Canada, the United Kingdom, Australia, and the Netherlands. And then the rest of the world is number 6 on this list. And you can also see the acceptance rate of manuscripts. The United States, of the top 5, has the worst rate at 12% acceptance rate, while you look at the rest of the world compared to these 5 countries, and they are accepted at a 5% rate. So there's a lot of people in our field who are not having their voices heard. And it is our hypothesis that it's an unequal distribution of resources, expertise, and mentorship that is a primary driver of the continued struggles of aspiring HPE scholars and the lack of diverse voices in our field. So our mission at MedEdMentor is to promote universal HPE scholarship by harnessing AI to provide guidance and foster global collaboration. Greg and I have been working on this project since 2019, so it's been about 6 years now. And we had no idea generative AI was on the way, and it just kind of was very serendipitous or lucky that this endeavor timed itself so well with this technologic revolution. So we're excited about what's happening in this particular area, and we are basing the design of our website on the roles that we think a human mentor plays for their mentees. So what does a human mentor do for their mentees? For me, a good mentor helps bridge this transition, this thing that many of us struggle with, from being in the basic sciences, the biologic sciences, to this field that's more of a social science. So getting us oriented, and we've created a set of lessons, which I'll show you, that guide people through these transitions. So once you know what HPE and MedEd is all about, where are you going to find theories? How do you find theories that might help you? And we have a theory database with only over 250 summaries of education theories, as well as at the bottom, you'll see a theory suggester. So this is an AI-powered tool that will suggest theories to you based on what you're interested in. And lastly, a lot of mentors will help their mentees by searching the literature for them or with them. And we've created the first and only medical education specific literature search, which I find to be incredibly helpful, and was playing with Fatima before you all arrived to work on a project of hers with her. And we found lots of great resources really quickly. So I'm excited to share all of that with you. So we're going to leave this PowerPoint right now and go to the website. Let's see. Okay. And I don't see anything in the chat yet, which is fine, but remember to please jump in at any moment. So right now you are looking at the landing page for MedEdMentor. This is how it looks for me. If you go there for the first time, it'll look slightly different. You will see, instead of Launch MedEdMentor, you'll see a small box where it asks you to input your email address. And that's when you put in your email address and click the button, it sends you a magic link that will give you access to the website for 90 days, as long as you're coming from the same computer with the same IP address. If you, at the end of 90 days, or if you're coming from a different computer or a different IP address, all you have to do is put in your email again, and you'll get another link that is active for 90 days. So it's free. It's free to use. You don't need a password. It's just linked to your email address, and we collect no other data. We don't need your name. We don't need your, certainly not your credit card information, just an email address to link you to your account. Up here, we have our blog, which is a newish thing. So we started this at the end of last year. You can see we hit our 1-year anniversary last year. I hosted a panel on the use of AI in medical education scholarship, and this is my summary of that panel. And then this is something Greg wrote about our updated paper database. But there'll be new fun things coming out here. And if any of you want to write something about health professions education scholarship, please reach out to me. We're happy to host other people's thoughts and ideas, and consider this another opportunity for scholarship. So once you get here, you've done your email address, you can launch the website. So here in the middle, you'll see lots of places to be directed, but all of the tools and the important stuff is around the edges here. So the first place I like to direct people is the lessons. This is where you'll get oriented to the field. And this, the Medical Education Research, a Beginner's Guide, is basically my journey from being very, very, very confused for many years to having a decent grasp of what's going on in the field. And I've written this in all of these things I've written in a conversational tone, not what you would find in a journal. There's a lot of clinical examples here that will help people like myself, who's an internal medicine physician by training, to try to relate what's happening in our field to something I know better. But I encourage you all to start here. So why does your research need theory? What's the difference between these concepts? What is a paradigm? And why medical education is more closely related to the social sciences, methodologies, methods, and how do you pick and apply a theory? And when you click on these, this one supposedly takes 13 minutes to read. It's, very, as you can see, it's pretty conversational, short, pithy sentences and paragraphs, and is lots of links to other things, some highlighted areas, and, we try to include diagrams and tables when they're appropriate. So definitely start here if you're not sure where to go. I also think this is really important. So as that first quote showed, many of us, myself included, really struggle with the terminology that people use in this field. And here are some of those words that are explained better. So this is a quick definition, but if you go into this, you'll see multiple definitions. Not all of these words most of these words have different interpretations and definitions, which makes it even harder. But here are different definitions and as well as where they come from and references that will take you to look through these things. Let's see, did something pop up in the chat? Natalie, is something in the, no, okay, great. Okay, so glossary is the second step. Next, I want to show you all the theory database. I mentioned, once you are oriented and you have a project in mind and you kind of understand how theories are useful and how they help you take this complicated problem that you're trying to solve and make it manageable and make it interpretable for someone in a different place, you come here to try to find a theory. This is not the best place to find a theory, but this is a list of all the theories that we have. So you'll see dozens of theories, over 250. And when you click on one, this is what it looks like. It tells you the name of the theory, when the theory summary was written, who wrote the summary. I did the editing on this. This is a theory by George Miller, who actually founded the Department of Education where I work at UIC in Chicago. And then we have a paragraph or two summarizing this theory, and then we always try to include a diagram or image when it's appropriate. And this group of authors, created a version. It's very similar to what you find in some textbooks, but they, iterated it on it slightly to make it fit and made it colorful and pretty, which I appreciate. And then here are some of the things that might be more important. So if you like the summary of Miller's pyramid, here are places where it's better described, so you can read more in depth about it. And then here are papers where it has been applied to an actual problem. So you can learn more about it and see how someone might use a theory in their work. And then other useful resources are things that are not journal articles. So these might be YouTube videos or blog posts or podcasts. So things that you might want to look at but aren't actual journal articles. Over here on the right, you'll see how we have categorized this theory in particular. So Greg and I have created 3 taxonomies, which I'll show you. And this is how you might sort the theories into smaller buckets as you're looking for a particular theory. Another awesome tool is, or reference, is these similar theories. So if you read the summary of Miller's pyramid or read one of the papers about it in more depth and it doesn't totally fit what you're looking for, here are some other options that are similar that might better fit the way you think about the problem. So if we go back to the theory database, you'll see this filter and explore option. So this is, as I mentioned, the taxonomies or categorization tools that Greg and I developed. So you can filter, we've labeled each of the theories based on what paradigm they might fit into. So whether you think about learning from a behavior standpoint, whether you think about learning from what's going on within someone's mind, when you're looking at the learner as a whole, their emotional, social, and cognitive approach. So this could be a way you think about these theories. If this doesn't mean much to you, don't use it. No worries. You can go back to this filter and explore and look at scales of theory. So is the thing you're thinking about something that's going on inside individuals? A lot of these are going to be cognitive theories, so things that are going on within someone's mind, or theories about emotions, so things that are going on within individual learners. Is it a theory that has to do with the interaction between individuals? Is it a theory at the level of an organization, a small social group, or society at large? So that's another way you can sort through these. And then the next is the use of theories. So an educator's portfolio is a tool that some institutions use to help educators share their accomplishments and their work in a way that's more interpretable to people who aren't in education. So this is a big tool when it comes to promotion and tenure, but it has these categories of the kind of jobs that many of us do as educators. So are we teaching directly? Are we building curricula and evaluating curricula? Are we doing leadership and administration? Are we assessing learners? And then mentorship and advising. So these are categories that you can click on, and it'll take that 250 theories and make them much smaller into, you know, a set of 30 or 40 with these short little summaries about what each of these theories is about. So that is one way to search through things. However, the best way to search through the different theories is with some of our AI-powered tools. So everything I've shown you so far are our static resources, and these are our interactive resources. There are three. There's two here under MedEdMentor AI, the Theory Suggester, and we have our own custom GPT, so MedEdMentor AI on ChatGPT. And when you click on this, it actually takes you out of MedEdMentor and takes you to ChatGPT. And this is a version of ChatGPT that we have customized for you all to use. It's free to use. You don't have to be a pro member of ChatGPT, but when you learn about all these teachings, you know, there's a lot of sessions on how to use AI. A lot of them have to do with what's called prompt engineering. So that is, what are the right words to say to get the chatbot or the large language model to act the way you want it to act? So how do you set up the parameters for this tool to behave the way you want it to behave? And we've done all of that for you, essentially. So we have taught this tool that it's going to be an expert in health professions education, scholarship, and research. It's an expert at editing and writing. We've given it a bunch of resources that it gets to refer to and pull from. All of the lessons that I've written explaining what HPE is all about are baked into this. So you can just come here and start asking questions about what you want. So I'm building Fatima and I were talking about, she's thinking about employing this new multiple mini interview style of selecting residents. This would be a great place. So I'm thinking of starting multiple mini interview residency selection at my residency program. What should I be thinking about as I go after this? You can start as general as that, and this tool will take you there. So really fun to play with, and it's just set up to be useful from the get-go. So that is MedEdMentor AI on ChatGPT. The Theory Suggester is our own AI tool that we've built. And what it does is you describe the research phenomenon that you care about, and it will search that phenomenon against this database of 50,000 medical education papers that we have pulled out, and try to cross-reference what you care about against the theories that have been used in these papers and give you suggestions. And I'll show you an example of that when we go back to the slides. And then the last part is this medical education literature search. So I find this to be the most useful tool. You're searching only medical education. You know, medical education is a very, it's a tough field for many reasons, but one of them is because we bring together so many different disciplines. We bring together, teachers, scientists, cognitive scientists, behavioralists, psychologists, economics. Like, there's so many fields and disciplines involved that it can be really hard to search the literature in like a very general database like Google Scholar, for instance. And this is where I come to search the literature, to be honest. I use this tool all the time for what I'm working on, and I'll show you how that works in a moment. So I'm going to switch back to the slides. Now is a great chance for questions if you have any. I'll just pause for a moment. Okay. So we're getting back into the slides. Again, throw your question in the chat if you've got one. Yeah, feel free to stop me at any point. So let's take a look at this medical education, health professions education specific literature search in more detail. As I showed you, it's sitting there right at the top. Can you give us a concrete example of how you would look? Oop. Can you finish reading that for me, Natalie? It popped up and disappeared quickly.
Yes, so we have a question from Karine. Can you give us a concrete example of how you would look for a corresponding theory, please?
Yes, I will.
Yeah.
Yes, I'll show you an example here in the slides because it looks better there. But we can, in our question and answer time, we can play with it and search, whatever you all are interested in and interpret the results together. So here is the literature search. It's sitting there right at the top of the screen when you get into the website. And you can see you're going to search 145,000 medical education papers. So this is the difference. Google Scholar has about 300 million items in it. PubMed is another tool I use a lot. It has 37 million items, and then MedEdMentor has only 145,000. So we have just artificially limited that denominator for you, that you're only going to be searching these things that are already very relevant to what you care about. And what does that look like when you do a search? So this is a search I did looking at, I want to design a survey. I want to design a survey to find out how my education intervention is working with my learners. So here I'm searching Google Scholar, survey design in medical education. And notice the words medical education are in there because that's what I care about. When you use MedEdMentor, you don't have to do that because it's already just medical education. So the first result is great. Survey design, an example from graduate medical education research. Great. Number 2, using cognitive interviewing to improve medical education survey is great. And Tony Artino here, you'll see, is kind of the guru of survey design as far as I'm concerned. So that looks great too. Number 3, similar. You can't fix by analysis what you've spoiled by design, how to build a survey. 1, 2, 3, good. Number 4, not quite. So this is a national survey on anatomical sciences in medical education. So this is the results of a survey about anatomy in medical education. So it's not how to design a survey, it's the results of a survey. And this is our 4th result, and we searched survey design, medical education. So already at result number 4, we are going off on a tangent. So it's just showing you you'll have to filter through the results much more when you search using a big database. All right, now let's look at what MedEdMentor brings us. Look, we're only searching survey design, not medical education, just survey design. Here's numbers 1 and 2. Survey design, survey research design, educator's blueprint. We see Tony Artino here again. Those are the 1 and 2. Here is survey design, again, Tony Artino, number 3. Here's 4 and 5, more Tony Artino in the 5th one. And I'll tell you all of the results were relevant. And we got about 40 results in the MedEdMentor database compared to 6 million in the Google Scholar database. So why is this important? You know, if I want to figure out how to design surveys, I'm going to go to MedEdMentor, because what I'm looking for is the how-to guides and the best resources within our field, and how are the experts in our field using it. And MedEdMentor is going to get that for you the fastest and show you what's in our literature. What it's not going to give you is everything on survey design. So if you're trying to do a literature review, like a scoping review or a systematic review, MedEdMentor is not the place to go. It is only going to bring you certain things, whereas Google Scholar will help you to find everything. I did notice a question, what are the databases that MedEdMentor is pulling from? So the back end of our literature search is a tool called Semantic Scholar, and that is a huge database of hundreds of millions of papers. And why we're using this as the back end is it uses semantic qualifiers. And what does that mean? So if you take, for example, Google Scholar, we do not know how Google Scholar finds the papers that it is presenting to you. Their algorithm is proprietary. So people have tried to reverse engineer Google Scholar and have found that we definitely know part of the way they suggest papers to us is by citation count. So when something's been highly cited, it gets boosted up their rankings, which is not a bad thing. There's pros and cons to it. It is bringing you the things that people have found most popular or most useful. But if something is highly cited and not particularly relevant to you, it might get higher up. And also, if something's very new and hasn't really had time to be cited yet, that'll get buried on the list. Whereas Semantic Scholar, its algorithm is revealed. They share it and tell you exactly how it's searching the literature. They do not use citation count at all, and all they're using is the semantic meaning of the title and the abstract and the paper. So what are the words in the paper and the title and the abstract actually mean? And it cross-references your search against that semantic meaning. And it does this in a numerical fashion, which is beyond my understanding. But but I know when you're searching Semantic Scholar, all you're searching is what do I care about in terms of words and what are the words in the paper. So it's going to bring you the most relevant stuff. And we'll look further at that. So that was the first iteration of our literature search. This is the second iteration that is not live yet, but I want to share with you the research that went into it, and you can read more about it at this pre-publication here listed at the bottom. It's under review right now at a medical education journal, but you can read the preprint here if you're interested in, but I'm going to share with you the highlights. So this is our second literature search iteration. So this all started with this idea called the medical education journals. So Lauren Maggio, who is the editor-in-chief of MedEd Portal, she was the editor-in-chief of Perspectives in Medical Education, and Tony Artino. I'm going back a slide, but you can see Lauren Maggio was the supervisor on this project, and Tony Artino was an editor along with Greg and myself and our friend Joe. But she has a background in library science, and Lauren Maggio wanted to define what are the core journals of our field of medical education. And she used a lot of library science terminology and technology and approaches to find these 24 journals that are the core of our field. And she did this in like 2021, 2022. The AAMC, so the Association of American Medical Colleges, also puts out a resource they call the Annotated Bibliography. And this is a expert curated list of journals that are relevant to the field of medical education. So between the library science defined 24 journals that are the core of our field, and these the annotated bibliography included all those 24, and then these experts recommended 25 extra. So this is what we used to define the first version, the version that I've already showed you and how that works. So those 145,000 papers are basically all the papers in these 49 journals, the core and the annotated bibliography. So we are building the second version, and here's how we did that. So using a theory called the core periphery model from network theory. What this does is when you have a network of things, you have things that are highly connected and highly linked, and that's called your core. And then you have this group that's slightly less connected, but still pretty well connected. That's called the adjacent. And then you have this group of things that are less well connected, and that's called the periphery. And so what we wanted to capture is what is our core and what is our adjacent. And this periphery are going to be things that publish medical education every once in a while, but rarely. But what's here in the adjacent and is not currently incorporated into our version 1.0 over here is things like the New England Journal of Medicine and the Journal of the American Medical Association, or JAMA, because these journals rarely publish medical education, but when they do, it's highly impactful. Like the article that defined feedback for us was a JAMA article in 1989. So everyone cites that, but JAMA rarely publishes medical education, but that is in our adjacent. So what we did was look at what are the journals that have been cited in this in this MEJ 24 over 500 times. And that gave us an additional 102 journals. So this is our core and this is our adjacent. And by combining these two, we now have 151 journals that are our version 2.0. So we didn't stop there. When you take the core and the adjacent, that's now 2 million papers. Our first version of the literature search was 145,000 papers. So we've just basically multiplied the number of papers that might be in this database by 10. But we don't want all of those. What we want is to be able to carve out just the medical education out of these journals to give you only the stuff that's relevant. So what we did was we took a random sampling of papers. It wasn't random, it was random, but when you look at that 2 million papers, only about somewhere around like 5% of that was medical education when you're including journals like New England Journal of Medicine and JAMA. So these samples ended up with only about 5% of medical education in them. And that's the random sampling. And you'll see how that plays out. But we took out 2,500 papers for training and then 1,500 papers for testing and put those to the side. And our tool was not allowed to see those test papers until we wanted to test it. So we, as a team, labeled all these 4,000 papers by hand. We read the title and the abstract and said, this one is a medical education paper, or this one is not a medical education paper. So it was either yes or no. And we gave all the training papers to this machine learning model and said, hey, read these papers. These ones are medical education, these ones are not, and learn from this data set. Then we gave the classifier all our test papers to see how it did in sorting these into different buckets, and we got its performance metrics. And this is how it did. So the gold standard for searching the literature is MeSH terms. So this is something on PubMed, and it stands for medical subject headings, is MeSH. And most people, when they're doing a systematic review or a scoping review, will come to PubMed and search education medical in their MeSH terms. And there's also these subterms, so you can make basically an enhanced MeSH term, and that's this red bar. And then the blue bar is our machine learning classifier. And what this shows is sensitivity is within that group of 1,500 test papers, there were 71 that were labeled as medical education. And what sensitivity is looking at is how many of those 71 papers did this search approach find. And you'll see that our machine learning model caught 90% of those papers labeled as medical education. And these gold standard search methods caught 2/3 or less. And then positive predictive value is when these methods call something medical education, what is the likelihood that it actually is medical education? They're all about the same, around 80%. So there's about 20% that are false positives, meaning they're called medical education and they're not. But our model is only missing 10% and overcalling about 20%, whereas these other models are missing at least 30% and overcalling about 20%. And that was the data for the whole set of journals. When you look at some of these journals by themselves, you'll see some really huge discrepancies. So some journals you'll see have no yellow and red lines. That's because these journals are not indexed on PubMed. So you cannot find these articles on PubMed. These articles are lost using our gold standard searching tool, whereas our model will catch over 90% of all of these papers. And then there's examples like MedEd Portal, you'll see here at the bottom. So Lauren Maggio is the editor-in-chief of MedEd Portal and was the senior author on this paper. And she was really upset to find out that MESH is only calling a little over half of the papers in MedEd Portal medical education. So that was very upsetting to her. But using our tool, it'll find it calls 98% of MedEd Portal medical education, which probably sounds right given the title of the journal. So as you can see, all these journals that are all about medical education, our machine learning classifier is finding the papers much more accurately than our gold standard search. So now that we know that this tool works really well, we're creating a database. So we took all the papers that we labeled, so that's the training set and the test set, gave it to the classifier to learn from. So after it practiced with after it did the test, we can give the papers back to it to learn from. And we are asking it to classify all the papers in that core and adjacent, so the 2 million, and it comes out to be at about 120,000 papers. So this is going to be the new database that'll be live on our website in about a month or two, is this 120,000 papers. So it's actually less than our first version, but it's coming from 151 journals instead of 49. So it's going to be even more highly dense medical education literature and catching things that you're not going to find on PubMed. So this is an example of the theory suggester. Someone asked for an example, and here that is. So all you do is you enter a phenomenon that you're interested in studying into the theory suggester. Here is teaching medical student oral presentation skills. And what it does is, it's a bit of a misleading statement on our website, I'll admit, but we said it's cross-referencing against 50,000 medical education papers, and it is, but only 9,000 of those explicitly use theory. So it's actually only comparing it against those 9,000. So whatever you search will be cross-referenced against those 9,000 papers that explicitly use theory. And this is what your results will look like. So here are some things that you might consider if you're going to build a curriculum to teach medical students to give oral presentations. Experiential learning theory, rhetorical theory, genre knowledge, active learning theory, deliberate practice. All of these are great options. When I read this, I was like, these sound made up. Rhetorical theory, genre knowledge, you know, we often talk about AIs and how they can hallucinate or confabulate. And I was like, oh, these seem made up. They're not. I looked them up. I looked up rhetorical theory. I looked up genre knowledge. They're real theories, and they're actually really creative and thoughtful ways that you might build a curriculum to teach someone how to give an oral presentation. So I was actually really impressed by the thoughtfulness that this AI put into these results. Right now, these things are not clickable, but they will be. So you'll be able to click the theory and it'll take you to the summary, click the 3 papers, it'll take you to the 3 papers. So that will be coming. I was speaking with Natalie before you all arrived. And right now, our list of theory summaries, the 250 we have, is based on expert opinion and me getting books out of the library on education theories and looking through the table of contents. And that's where I got this list of 250. But now that Greg and I have built this database of 120,000 papers that are the core of medical education, we're going to be able to poke and prod that database to ask it, what are the theories that are in our field? What are the methodologies that are in our field? And that's going to create the next set of content. So our list of theories is going to be updated by what are the actual theories that people in our field are using to do the work. So that's really exciting now that we have this. So quickly, we've been around for like a year and a half, a little under a year and a half. We have over 2,700 users in over 100 countries. People have used MedEdMentor for over 20,000 minutes and done these searches. So we believe that MedEdMentor is meeting a global need for some guidance. And these are our next steps. Expanding the database and the search functions, how to write research questions is something I think that would be very useful. Picking the right methodology for questions, networking, finding people to work with, and moral support. This work is hard, so getting encouragement for the work that you're doing. But I want to stop here and make sure I answer the questions in the chat and give people the chance to ask questions.
Thank you, Jeff. That was amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you also for explaining version 1 and version 2 that is coming soon. And I hope that version 3 will include every single medical education article in the whole world, not just the highly citable ones. So we have a couple of questions, and then maybe if we have time, we can actually go to the site and maybe show the theory suggester live. I think it would be interesting. So one question is from Fatima. Seeing the results on your MedEdMentor search accuracy and sensitivity, do you envision that MedEdMentor literature search will become with time a powerful tool that is more accurate and more efficient for MedEd scoping reviews rather than using the keywords and the mesh terms on multiple databases? Yani, is it going to be an easy life for us? Just go on your database and we get the review right away?
It's a great question. The first group I ever shared this data with included one of the leaders of the BEME reviews. So this is a group within AME, so the International Health Professions Education Society. And the BEME reviews is this group that works to do systematic reviews. That's their job, and then choose different topics and do these things. And I shared this data with her. She works at University of California, San Diego. I shared it with her in a presentation like this, and basically it shows that her search methods are the search meshes that all of us have been using are insufficient, mostly because of the way papers are classified using mesh terms. So I think yes, I think any literature search is going to be incomplete if it's not also using the MedEdMentor search, because as you can see, it's catching a lot of things that are missed using mesh terms. MedEdMentor will not, I don't think MedEdMentor will ever be able to just like do a systematic review for you, because we are excluding that periphery on purpose. I looked at she and I looked at an example, and it was about teaching during COVID was the example. And you'd see a paper show up in like the Journal of Ophthalmology in South Korea, for example, or the Journal of Urology, Indian Urology. And so those papers should be caught in a systematic literature review, but those papers are not really super relevant to the conversation that's happening in the field of medical education. So MedEdMentor's never going to capture those. I don't think. That's not our goal. But I don't think a literature search will be complete if you don't use MedEdMentor to catch the ones that mesh is missing.
All right, makes sense.
Yeah.
Nabil has a question. Will your database be accessible for other searches? I asked him what exactly does he mean. Nabil, do you want to open your mic and tell us what you mean by that? What do you mean by other searches? And meanwhile, maybe if we can go to the site and show an example of a theory suggestion. And Rasha is asking, she's new in the field of MedEd, and she thinks that this is a great tool. And her question is, where in your tool do you believe is a good starting point for aspiring academic physicians? So maybe when you go to the tool, you can tell us how to start.
Yeah.
Personally, for me, it's the glossary. I think it's awesome. I had no idea that there's a difference between a theoretical framework and a conceptual framework. So I have to go to that glossary. But you can comment on that.
Glossary and lessons, medical education research, why your research needs theory is where I would start, and then work your way through these. And once you're through these 5, then just start playing. I think just seeing what your ideas are and playing and using, bounce your ideas off our custom GPT and just see what it tells you back. And just that fun, that playfulness and just curiosity will get you really far. So theory suggester, let's see. Natalie, what are you working on? Anything you're working on?
Medical education in conflict.
What kind of conflict?
War.
Okay.
I don't know if there's a
War
theory.
zones or conflict. War or conflict zones.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So I don't know if these things are real. I will say this tool, the theory suggester, does not hallucinate. It can't, because we've given it the information it's allowed to pull from. So all of these are in those papers, are in a paper, and they are things. But yeah, you should definitely, these are definitely things worth looking up. And if you're thinking about studying medical education in war zones or conflict zones, and like my list of 250 theories is not useful for that. Here is a list of 15. So you can just start Googling them and seeing if anything is relevant to you. I bet, 2, 3, 4 are gonna be something you might consider using to frame what you're doing. So that's how I would use this tool. And then I'll just show, let's see, medical education. I'll show what this literature search real quick and what it looks like when you actually search it. Here's a paper from medical education, Syria in a time of crisis, in Zagreb, the ravages of war, education for health. So lots already out there. Here's a Ukrainian paper. And when you click on you get this too long didn't read summary. You can expand it, but when you click on this, it takes you out of MedEdMentor and takes you to Semantic Scholar, that literature search tool I was telling you about. So it'll take you out, and you can then find the paper here.
All right. This is really amazing. So we go back to Nabil, who's clarifying. The question is, will other search engines have access to MedEd? So if you are searching in PubMed, can you be linked to the MedEd? This is, I think, the question.
I don't know. That's a good question. Could a search engine be hooking up to our search in the back end? Probably. Greg would be a better person to answer that. No one has approached us in terms of like formally connecting our search to their search, but could they be doing it without us knowing it? I would say probably, but I'm not the tech guy. I'm the education guy.
It's okay. All right. I don't see any other questions on the chat, and it's already 8:02. Anybody would like to unmute and ask a quick question? I know this is super, super interested, and I hope that we will all use this tool. If anyone has a burning question, you can just open your mic and ask it.
Yeah, I'll put my email in the chat. Feel free to reach out for any reason. I am always happy to help. So it's just jeff@mededmentor.org.
All right. Thank you very much. That was really, really insightful. We should probably continue with the additional workshops or something like that, because people have to use this tool. I'm going to use it for sure. Thank you for accepting to be with us tonight.
Yeah, and I'm happy to come back and work with you all if that's helpful. So
yeah.
All right. Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed it. Have a good night.
Thank you.
We have a question from Beatrice. She's raising her hand.
Oh, please.
Oh, sorry, Beatrice, I did not see. Go ahead.
I was trying to clap, sorry.
No worries.
My technology skills. Sorry.
I appreciate the claps. Thank you. All right. Have a good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you.